In today's software world, everything's connected. But have you ever stopped to think about how all those different pieces of an app actually talk to each other? That's what we're diving into. We're going to put three heavyweights of API communication head-to-head: REST, GraphQL, and gRPC. Let's figure out which one is right for the job.
Yeah, seriously, think about it. Almost every app on your phone. It's not one single chunk of code. Nope. It's a whole bunch of tiny, specialized services all working together. We call them microservices. You've got your order service, your payment service, the user service, and they all have to chat with each other like instantly and super efficiently. So how in the world do they do it? That's the big question we're tackling.
All right, so first up, we've got to talk about the OG, the reigning champ that pretty much everyone knows, REST. For like decades, this has been the go-to, the default way to build APIs. It's basically the common language, the lingua franca that powers a massive chunk of the web.
And at its core, REST it's actually beautiful in its simplicity. It just uses the rulebook the web already has, which is HTTP. So you want to get a user's info, you send a GET request to a URL, something like /users/101. Want to create a new user, you post some data. It's all very predictable, it's stateless, and pretty much every developer on the planet gets it. But, and there's always a but, that simplicity, it comes at a price.
Okay, let's look at a classic problem with this. Picture this, your mobile app, all it needs to do is show a user's name on the screen. That's it, just the name. So it does a standard REST thing, right? It sends a GET request for that user. Simple enough, you'd think.
Well, here's the catch. The server has no idea you only want the name. That endpoint, /users/101, it's designed to give you the whole user object. So you get back the ID, the email, the address, the phone number, all this extra junk you never even asked for. And it's just clogging up the network. This whole thing is called overfetching. And trust me, on a shaky mobile connection, it's a huge waste of data and it just makes your app feel sluggish.
And that exact problem, that overfetching nightmare, is precisely why Facebook went and invented our next contender, GraphQL. The whole idea here is to flip the script. It shifts the power from the server to the client, letting the app be super specific about what it actually needs. So, you know how REST has a million different URLs for a million different things? GraphQL throws that out. Usually, it just has one single endpoint. And the client, your app, sends a query to that endpoint that perfectly describes the shape of the data it's looking for. It's kind of like REST is ordering a fixed combo meal, but GraphQL is like going to an all-you-can-eat buffet and picking exactly what you want on your plate, and nothing else.
So let's go back and fix that problem we had earlier. With GraphQL, the client builds a query that looks just like this. See how specific that is? It's literally a shopping list for data. It's telling the server, hey, find me the user with ID 101, and I only want the name field. Got it? Don't you dare send me anything else.
And boom, look at that response. Clean, precise, no wasted data, no overfetching, just the name. When you put that next to the bloated response we got from REST, that's what makes this so incredibly powerful. For any developer building apps for mobile or the web, this kind of control is an absolute game changer. It means faster, snappier apps for your users.
Okay, but what if you don't really care about front-end flexibility? What if your main goal is just raw, blistering speed, especially for your servers talking to each other behind the scenes? Well, that brings us to our final challenger, one built by Google for that exact reason, gRPC.
gRPC basically takes the old rulebook and just throws it out the window. Forget text-based JSON. Forget the old HTTP/1.1 protocol. gRPC uses a super compact binary format and the way faster, more modern HTTP/2. It's less like sending a detailed letter back and forth, and more like your services are speaking a highly efficient, compressed language directly to each other.
Now, the secret sauce here is this thing called protocol buffers. Before you even write a single line of code, you have to define a super strict contract, a schema, that says exactly what your data and services look like. This contract means both the client and the server know precisely what to expect, and that's what makes the communication just so unbelievably fast and efficient.
Let's make this real for a second. Let's put them side by side. The exact same piece of information, right? In JSON, which is what REST and GraphQL use, it might take up about 120 bytes. Now that same info in gRPC's binary format, get this, it's only about 40 bytes. Yeah, you heard that right. That's a 3 times reduction in size. Now, for one single request, you might be thinking, who cares? But imagine you're dealing with millions or even billions of these requests flying between your microservices every day. That difference adds up to a massive performance gain. It's huge.
Okay, so we've met the players. Now it's time for the main event. Let's put them side by side and see how they really stack up in the ultimate system showdown.
All right, if we're just talking about raw, unadulterated speed, the verdict is in, and it is crystal clear. REST is the slowest of the bunch, GraphQL is a solid middle-of-the-road contender, but gRPC is the undisputed champion of performance, hands down. But the real question is, why?
Well, the answer is right here in this table. It all comes down to the foundation. gRPC's insane speed comes from using that superior HTTP/2 protocol and that super efficient binary data format. Meanwhile, REST and GraphQL are kind of held back by the older HTTP/1.1 and that clunky text-based JSON. And this difference maps perfectly to where you'd use them. REST is great for public APIs. GraphQL is perfect for flexible front ends. And gRPC is the king of high-speed internal microservice communication.
And this right here is probably the single most important aha moment of this entire explainer. It's not about choosing one technology to rule them all. That's not how it works. The best, most modern, most scalable systems, they use them together. Think of it like this. Your front-end app talks to an API gateway using flexible GraphQL because that gives the best user experience. But then behind that gateway, all of your internal services are zipping messages back and forth using hyper-efficient gRPC for maximum performance. It's the best of both worlds.
Okay, let's boil all this down into something you can actually use. You know, like in your next technical interview when someone inevitably asks you to compare these three.
So, which one should you actually use? That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? After all this theory, what's the real, practical answer? Which tool do you pull out of the toolbox and when?
Well, it really just comes down to that old saying, use the right tool for the job. You stick with REST for your standard public-facing APIs where compatibility with everything is the most important thing. You choose GraphQL when you've got complex front ends, maybe on mobile or web, where you absolutely have to avoid that overfetching problem. And for that critical, high-speed chatter between your own internal services, gRPC is the clear, undisputed winner.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. Google, the company that literally invented gRPC, they use it to power the backbone of some of the biggest services on the entire planet. We're talking Gmail, YouTube, Google Cloud. I mean, if it's powerful enough to handle the insane internal traffic of YouTube, that's a pretty serious testament to its power and scalability.
So here it is. This is your perfect, polished, ready-to-go interview answer. Saying this shows you don't just know what these things are, you understand why you choose one over the other. You're showing you get the strengths of each, and that demonstrates some real architectural wisdom.
And that really brings us to the end here. We've seen how REST set the standard for decades, how GraphQL came along and solved for flexibility, and how gRPC just absolutely conquered performance. So the final question isn't which one is best, it's which one is best for your specific problem. So I want you to think about the systems you work on. Where's the bottleneck? Where are things slow? Because now you have the knowledge and the tools to figure out exactly how to fix it.